Hi, everybody. This is Brandon from the Chinchilla Picking Podcast, and I'm with Nick Young. Davis out right now because he's recovering from shoulder surgery. I don't know. Is it entertaining, educational, uplifting? That's what it is. I got it right this time.
You got it right the first time.
Yeah. So that's what we aim to be here. Uh, I don't really have any fluff planned here. The Mavericks lost in the NBA Finals, so I was mad about that. It's really, really freaking hot outside. Really
Hey,
freaking.
yeah, today has been a lot better after it rained this morning, but I do have to ask you, Brandon, I've noticed you have a love of Dallas teams.
Yes.
What is the reason for that?
I don't know.
Fair enough.
So when I was 5 years old, um, I was like traveling with my mom and she was listening to Rush Limbaugh. And it was the day of the Super Bowl. And he said that if you don't really know the teams involved, you pick your favorite color. And it makes it more entertaining. And my favorite color was navy blue. It still is to this day. So I picked the Cowboys. They won, beat their in the first Super Bowl against the Buffalo Bills in the early 90s. And I've been a fan ever since. It's been like 33 years.
Well, I guess a little fun behind the story.
Yeah, exactly. So now you might as well just like section my house off and just declare it part of Dallas, Texas.
Fair enough.
I'm also a Pistons fan, but I probably shouldn't say that out loud.
Well, that's contradictory because you're just talking about the Mavericks, right?
Yeah, but Detroit, I've always had a special love for Detroit in my heart. My nephew's from Detroit. I've been there a couple of times. Of course, there's parts you don't want to live in or go to at all.
You can say that for any city, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So Detroit Pistons and yeah, so that's like my second favorite.
Detroit Pistons and anything Dallas.
Yeah, anything Dallas. Exactly.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Who's your favorite sports teams? I don't know. We don't talk sports on this podcast a lot, but
I'm a Cincinnati native, obviously, so I'm a big Bengals fan. I would say I'm a Reds fan, although it's been more this year. My couple buddies and I just did fantasy baseball, and so we got into doing that a little bit more, and it's brought me a little bit more interest in baseball. But all of it's kind of originated in gambling in some way, shape, or form. So
yeah.
it's got that good nature leading into it.
Yeah.
So
So I love the Cincinnati Reds also.
mhm.
Lots of baseball history here. They're my favorite baseball team. Um, it's been different since Marty Brennaman retired like 15 years ago, whenever it was.
Yeah,
He was just absolute legend. I used to watch the Reds on TV, but have the volume down and then listening to 700 WLW and hearing Marty do the call.
that was actually I feel like a very common thing to have in Cincinnati.
Yeah, it was.
Marty Brenneman had a very unique lock on the city. But anywho, Dave's gonna get annoyed at us if we don't get into stocks soon
Yeah,
enough.
we
So
get into it. We can get into it. Somewhere out there, there's a picture of Johnny Bench holding me as a baby, which is awesome. But looking back at it, I think he was hitting on my mom. So there's also that.
fair enough. Hey,
Um,
it happens.
all right, so we'll get into it. Under Armour and recently announced a restructuring plan. Their earnings report the last time actually did exceed expectations, but it was like 11 cents per share versus 8 cents per share. Sales have been taking a huge hit since COVID. They kind of had the little like wave that they, ran on as far as like the athletic brands picking up after COVID goes, and they had a huge drop in sales. And we're kind of piggybacking here off of last week's theme, which was CEOs having to come back and take over a company that's going back in the wrong direction. And we
I
have the
listened to that one pretty good. I got a kick out of that one.
Yeah. And the founder here he's having to do the same thing. So the founders came back, taking over the CEO role, trying to push the company back in the right direction. He says the timeline for this restructuring is going to be about 18 months. What they want to do is revital, and he went into some very general things that the average company does here. He said revitalizing the brand, repositioning as a premium athletic wear company. They want to refocus on the men's apparel business, which is their most profitable and highest seller. They're going to sell about 20% less products so that they can focus back on their core areas. enhance innovation, reduce markdowns. He said the overhaul, including selling fewer products, will also include refocusing on the men's apparel business, reducing markdowns, improving direct to consumer channels, and they want to rely on less on wholesaler partners. Um, Short-term impact here. He said the overhaul will have a pressure on the company's top and bottom line. Revenues expected to decline in this year. He said low double-digit percentage. They're projecting that the restructuring will result in about $70 million to $90 million worth of costs in 2025. This is going to be partially tied to severances and benefits costs. So this another company here that's going to be announcing layoffs pretty soon.
Well, that's been the theme now for 4 years, really. Which, I mean, what they can do to minimize cost, I think that's a huge call out. I mean, I kind of like the idea of getting back to what you're good at. I think too many companies, especially today, have gotten away from that. So I think that really makes it a good spot for them is getting back to what your key market and your key customer group. I kind of like that. I mean, even if you take a little bit off the top, ultimately, if you're having stuff that's not moving, it should definitely help you in the long run on your cost perspective.
Exactly. And that's kind of what they're aiming to aiming at right now. He said that the North American sales are expected to decline between 15 and 17%. So this is going to be a pretty hard pill to swallow for the next year. But investors should, I think, reward Under Armour if they're moving in the right direction. And just the fact that they are restructuring here. Retail is having a really hard time with inflation. What the numbers are showing like 2 to 3% right now, inflation for the year. But look, going back to 2020, prices have increased by 20%. So, and that's
Yeah, and
across.
I think the thing to get at that with Under Armour is kind of hold for now, see how those results. I mean, kind of what you were mentioning last week with Starbucks is just cold. Show me that you're following the plan, and then if you start seeing it, because ideally we will probably see some drop in cost, and you might be able to get a little bit of a discount,
Exactly.
and then ride that back up.
Exactly. And they did follow trend here, that most stocks have been doing, and they decided to repurchase up to $500 million of Class C common stock. So that I don't quite understand. You're restructuring and all this cost that's being spent on the restructure, and you're going to spend $500 million on a buyback. I don't get that, but I think that's short-term sighted, trying to boost the stock. Trying to keep a floor on it while they announce that they're having a restructuring plan and that all these costs are going to hit, and they're trying to provide a floor to the stock.
Well, and it's probably helping to shareholders just stomach the discomfort they're going to have coming up here. If you raise it now, so you buy back some stock, you raise the stock price, and then you go through the hardship. So you're going through kind of that muddied area. You take a hit on the stock price, but since it's higher, it helps. And then when you come back up, so you're basically kind of prepping for that restructuring. I mean, it makes sense in my mind to really set yourself up with a higher stock price to start. Um, and again to kind of help it so that you're not going to the kind of the rough patch and then people just start abandoning ship because yes, you set the goal, but maybe it dropped more than they intended. So I feel like you're giving something to the shareholder, ideally for the long run. I mean, if they have the cash on hand to do it too, um, that makes sense. But I know sometimes, I mean, I hope they're not taking out a loan to buy back, but
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think so. They didn't say that they are, but companies do that, so
uh-huh.
we'll see.
Yep.
And one thing that drives me nuts too when I'm on Facebook, and we could start an entire podcast if we just entitled it "Your Facebook Friends Are Wrong." We could do every week, what they're wrong about, and it would go on forever.
Well, that would almost be like mentioning the Reddit, going down that road. So,
Right. Oh, we could do an entire series on Reddit at least. But I mean, they always talk about recently, like the last couple of years, these retail companies and corporations posting record revenue and really like, yeah, record revenue because they've had to increase the prices, but who cares when the costs have gone up so much, you
Well,
know?
and the question comes there is at what point do we reach a spot where consumers can't stomach that anymore? And now you're actually making less money because you price yourself out of the market.
Yeah. I think we're getting there. I mean, researchers are saying 3,400 retail stores are closing this year. This is a 22% increase compared to last year at this time. They said one of the main causing factors is inflation. Arby's in Hollywood was iconic there, 55 years. That's going out of business. And I mean, this isn't a small matter here. I mean, entire communities and stuff like that, they're going to be affected. I mean, we're looking at Family Dollar closing 600 stores, Rue 21, 99 cents, 7-Elevens, CVS's. So you're going to have drugstores, restaurants, retail stores just gone from communities along with those jobs. And, if you look at Family Dollar, I think Family Dollar a lot is in urban communities rather than Dollar Tree, which is usually in rural areas. But I mean, there's a lot of the people from family, a lot of those families that go to Family Dollar, they rely on it for the low
Well,
cost.
well, what's crazy on that too is when you mention that typically I always think that you would see and Family Dollar closing stores is I think the more scary part of that because usually you'll see a place close and then Family Dollar comes in to
Yeah,
try to fill the gap, fill the void. And
right.
so that particular one kind of jumps out to me. You said how many stores is it for Family Dollar?
600.
Whew.
600 stores gone. And those are in places where they don't have access to Walmarts and,
Hmm.
they're strategically positioned for that. And it was not just inflation for them. They had terrible management. There was just about a year ago an investigation into their main warehouse that had rats and birds and animal feces where food stored at incorrect temperatures. It was just a really bad situation for them and a large fine that they had to face.
I'm
Uh,
sensing a theme so far with the first two.
yeah, yeah, very bad management from Family Dollar. I mean, that's one of the reasons why you invest in a company that's got good management. Not a company that's going to give you bad surprises like a warehouse, uh, being investigated for rodents or, a door flying off an airliner in midair.
Well, come assembly required, but
Right.
you look at that too. I mean, I think the hard part in today's world, and it becomes ever more prevalent to what you're pointing out here, is trying to find the good management, and it's so hard to find.
Yeah.
Um, again, I mean, think about the time you had, and I mean, another company where you had Apple, where Steve Jobs left, and then granted he was forced out, but then he came back because they were struggling. I mean, it's hard to find those people that really make that difference and keep that focus for what the company's original vision was.
Hmm.
And so kind of tying it back to Under Armour there. And I think this is what we're seeing with a lot of these closures, I think ultimately is that companies are trying to consolidate. And I think this kind of comes back to the point that you guys actually brought up. I think it was last year a couple of times, and even this year with the recession potentially kind of sitting out there. I know they're saying that we're basically through the gist of it because there could potentially be um, a drop in interest rate here by the Fed, but it's like,
Yeah.
but
Double-edged
is it?
sword, right? Double-edged
Yeah.
sword, because if you have that drop in interest rates, then what's that going to do to inflation?
Well, and yeah, it's just. Yeah, you look at what's going on with some of these businesses, you can tell they're pulling back, they're trying to reset their positions, drop their costs, and really ultimately plan for the long haul. And I feel like that all is stuff that you would put under categories for recession. So it's
I think so too.
yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely believe that. And one of the things that, people talk about when they're looking at retail stocks, the same store sales, we talk about that all the time.
Hmm.
And if you're looking at same store sales for a company that you're looking to buy, you want at least 3 to 4% growth every year in
Yep.
same store sales because you've got costs that go up that high. So the minimum there, if they're below 3%, you don't want to touch it because they're not keeping up with costs. Um, so that kind of narrows it down a little bit too. You also want a net profit margin, I would say around 10%, unless you're
Mhm.
Walmart. And you've got the volume to make up for a low margin.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
no, I think that's but even on that, I mean, when you look at what's happening today where companies are trying to almost, and I know we've been talking about brick and mortar stores, but even one that I heard the other day about like Southwest and how um they might have to look at restructuring how they do things. I mean, I've heard a couple of different murmurs out there where they might actually have to go away from their model of um, basically load. I'm trying to think how it goes. Basically, you have your sections. It's more or less your loyalty for the company, but they're now going to have to probably go to a more assigned seating than sit where you want.
Mm.
And then on top of that, they're obviously they've been struggling because they've been keeping their prices so low. So restructuring that model, and it's like, yeah, Southwest is a name that's been around in airlines now for quite a while. I think they're gonna have to restructure things, and it brings me back to, and not saying that we're there, but like the ideas of '08 and what happened then. And I remember Delta having to restructure, which was, again, it's the creme de la creme of airlines. So, you're hearing that, and then you're hearing about a Family Dollar, although it's not the creme de la creme, it's the discount, obviously to most stores, um, having to close stores and pull back. It's just, what can we expect here in 6 months?
I don't know. We'll find out. That assigned seating though, that's going to be terrible for sales for Southwest. I mean, nobody wants to do that. If you're traveling with a group and or you're going with your wife or your girlfriend or best friend or something like that, you don't want to sit next to a stranger for 3 hours.
So it would be like anything else. It would be like Delta where you'd have assigned seating where you just choose at checkout kind of stuff.
Oh,
But their unique thing is that you get to choose your seat. That is something that has always drawn people to Southwest. You don't have to sit anywhere. You don't have a first class and all that. That all might and somewhat change considering how much they're struggling, and they need to do some sort of a revenue jump to kind of get some life back into Southwest.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Understood. Um, Another big, I want to say hype word right now is artificial intelligence. And despite missing, or despite having declining growth the past 5 out of 6 quarters, Apple, because they said they're working on artificial intelligence, hit all-time highs. Now Apple's a great company, don't get me wrong, but missing 5 out of 6 quarters and then you have all-time highs with the stocks, which I'm sure a lot of that was that huge buyback program that they announced about a month ago. But it's a hype. It's a hype train to me. We
Mhm.
don't know where this is going. We don't know how much money this is going to make. We don't even know what language models are going to work. Um, Probably 90% of the stuff that these companies are buying into right now, they're going to have to throw away.
I actually heard with that one too that they're looking at partnering with Meta.
They are. So the chatbot for Apple's new iPhone, it's either going to be in conjunction with OpenAI and Microsoft, or it's going to be Meta. There's a couple other companies that they're looking into. We don't really have really insight into what that partnership would bring about yet, but that I know of at least.
So would you think then, so whoever partners with Apple, would Apple be the one that you'd be interested in buying then, from a stock standpoint, or would you be going with the company they're hiring, like a Facebook or a Microsoft and whatnot?
I would tend to go with the company that they're hiring, depending on the stock price. Apple's a little overbought for me right now, in my opinion. Um, and I never want to side against Apple because you're always on the wrong side when it comes to Apple. But I can't think of a meaningful innovation that Apple has had since the iPad.
Yeah.
The earphones. So they did the earphones. So that there's that.
Oh, the AirPods?
The AirPods, yeah. So those are
Yeah, but I feel like those have had issues. I mean, the funniest thing is my wife's actually a big Apple fan for their phone, and actually went away from the AirPods because she used to have them to I actually bought Raycon. And so she actually bought I got her Raycons and she's like, I love these so much better because they
Yeah.
didn't sit right in her ears. I think they only had one mode or one model for the ear, whereas this actually came with like five or six, so you could actually, if you had a bigger ear canal or a smaller one, it could kind of work with your ear. And so I don't know about the quality on the AirPod, but I know from a comfort level they were kind of difficult for her to use. So to your point, I mean, once that kind of came out, you saw that pop up everywhere though.
Yeah.
All the different little earbuds that you could put in your ear were, everyone, you can't tell if anyone's listening anymore because they might have that in their ear.
Yeah. I think the watch came after the iPad, so I should correct.
Yeah, no, there's the Apple Watch.
But
That kind of
it's been like
that
10 years.
well, that also launched all the Garmin's and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean that would be something they came up with. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the headset, but that's or the, the goggles or whatever that was called. I forget what that was called now. But
Would
then
we really call? I have my opinions on the people wearing the goggles, especially when you hear about. I can't remember if it's Apple's or who has it where they're actually like driving with the goggles on.
how though? That's got to be such a huge distraction.
So, from the ones that I've seen, it kind of makes me think of like you have Iron Man with the Iron Man head on, and you can kind of you can still see, but you have stuff going on that like you can I to your point, I agree with you. I think it is highly distracting and a huge concern, and it probably needs to pop up with a caution thing at the front of it saying, "Do not use while operating machinery" or
Yeah.
something. Um, but even that, I mean, you people who are walking around, New York or wherever, and it's like they just look funny. Like you just see people walking around with these on, or they have the robotic dogs with them too. It's like, what are you doing, guys?
With their vapes,
Yep.
probably vaping, and nothing against vapors. I vape too, but it's a hipster thing, right?
I mean, yeah, I definitely think that. I mean, it's actually funny because I can't tell if smoking's actually gone down. You mentioned that with vaping, since that started. But yeah, when you look at that and you say, okay, it's the trend. It's the way things are going. But I could never. I don't think I could ever be that person to wear that because it makes me think of kind of that movie Ready Player One,
Yeah.
but in a whole different sense.
I don't get it. But and the other thing too, I think they've discontinued the production of them already.
Have they really? I don't think I
I
saw that.
believe they did. I believe
Okay.
they did. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe that was just a rumor that popped up, but I'm pretty certain they did. But they're working on a new AI strategy. They call it Apple Intelligence. The strategy aims to leverage artificial intelligence across various aspects of the company. During the keynote, he unveiled several AI initiatives. They have enhanced Siri, which is a more capable version of Siri, enhancing its voice assistant capabilities. They are announcing either an open AI or a Meta Llama partnership. Um, and Apple shares once again up to brand new highs on this.
Well,
I
that's
don't
because
think
AI was
that's
dropped. The word AI popped up in an article, so instantly shares jump 5% or
right.
something.
Right. Exactly. Um, yeah. So I don't know. I'm not really buying into the AI hype so much yet. I think it's incredible the way that it has evolved just over the past year or two,
Hmm.
but we don't know where the money's going to come from.
Yeah, I'm still always I've always kind of been hesitant on the AI bit because I feel like the ability to be able to operate at the scale they'll need to, especially for the number of companies that are out there that want to buy into it, and the pull that it takes to make AI from an electoral standpoint. I wonder, are we going to run into a ceiling here at some point where we have to find a way to get around that before we can really see the full effect of AI on a
Yeah.
grand scale?
And you have all these tech companies that are rushing to get to market first and to scale first on everything,
Hmm.
even the stuff that doesn't work, which is going to be most of it.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I mean, what's funny is, speaking of AI, so one of the companies, obviously, again, that you and Dave have been really big on, that was kind of at the forefront of AI from a chip standpoint, NVIDIA.
Yeah.
Um, So NVIDIA is actually looking to sign a deal in the Middle East to actually get their chips, which I guess is kind of a frowned upon thing or kind of a no-no, um, more or less from getting technology into the Middle East that's top of the line, um, the newest technology, if you will. But they're looking to get these into these data centers in the Middle East, and it's kind of interesting because I mean, one thing that they just did, which I think you guys actually caught it out when it happened, was they did that stock split.
Yeah.
I think it was a 10 time stock split. So they jumped down to $100. Um, so with that kind of in mind, so they're doing this. I'm trying to remember. I think it's a $2 billion deal. They're looking at doing. I'm sorry, no, that's a different one. They're doing. How much was it? They're looking at investing $1 million from this company, Uridu. And so, with that kind of thought and where NVIDIA is going, along with the stock split, would you consider NVIDIA a buy?
No, not at this point. So here's the thing about Nvidia. We thought it was overvalued before the split at $458. And then they tripled sales and then they quadrupled sales and so on. And then we're like, well, maybe it's not, maybe it's not so much of a overvaluation right now because the sales are they seem to be justifying the price of the stock.
Hmm.
But then at a closer look at it, and this was probably a couple of weeks after we said that, a
Hmm.
closer look, it's like these sales can't keep up the way that they're doing it. It's not going to continue this way. It can't because we know that most of the language models that they're building these chips on are not going to be valuable for companies in the long run, but companies are buying them right now because we don't know which ones are going to be the best. And they're trying to be first.
Well, I
Um,
mean, they definitely did that. They definitely were first.
yeah. And then we were looking at like $40,000 chips that NVIDIA is charging these companies. And now you start to see, okay, there's got to be a second player coming up. Maybe AMD, maybe a brand new company. You never know. That's going to start challenging NVIDIA's market dominance because they're clearly taking advantage of the fact that they're the only player in this game right now.
But how far down the line do you think till they really become competitive with NVIDIA?
I think that's a mystery. I mean,
Only,
NVIDIA had such a long head start on this because they were focusing on gaming, and then it just turned out that the gaming chips could be used for artificial intelligence learning and
hmm.
such. And so they had such a long head start on everybody. So it could be years. I don't know. It could be, but the incentive of the cost of these chips to create new companies to compete with Nvidia and try to take some of this market share, I think is very high right now.
So if there becomes a competitor out there, assuming they're creating a similar and equivalent product, maybe somebody to keep an eye out on to maybe invest in down the road.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, as long as they're making the right AI chips, maybe we don't know what those are yet. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
But
well there that's a whole separate yeah. And that's assuming they don't change the technology between now and then for
oh, it's gonna
what
happen.
pieces are communicating. Yeah,
Yeah,
interesting. Gotta love it.
yeah.
Um, Another one that I thought was kind of interesting that I wanted to call out. So, I think you guys, I can't remember if you guys have talked about them yet or not, but Spotify is looking at making some changes. They are going to bring a new, more reasonable plan, a basic plan for 10.99 per month. Um, and it looks like the main difference is going to be not being able to use audiobooks, listening time. Whereas if you get the premium plan, you'll be able to get offline ad-free music and then 15 hours of audiobook listening time per month. Um, and it looks like they're looking to set, so you've got the 10.99 plan. It looks like a 16.99 plan for a duo for two people, and then a family plan for 19.99 it looks like. So looking at that and knowing kind of some of the woes, I don't are you familiar with some of the stuff that's been going on with Spotify?
No, I mean that's our main podcast. You know, place that we're on right now. And the funny thing is that we don't really have that many Spotify listeners. So 90% of people come from Apple.
So what's interesting with them is they've been doing a restructuring of who they have, who their contracts are with. They had I know a couple of layoffs at some point in the past here, but um, so they're doing all these changes, and I think it's going to be interesting to see kind of where this goes because you know it brings me back to kind of the whole streaming aspect of things, where you've got Disney who has I believe they have a commercial free and a commercial option.
Yeah.
Most companies are doing that
Yeah, they
nowadays.
followed Netflix with that. Yeah.
Do you think that's going to be a smart move for Spotify to bring a commercial? I guess there's a more reasonable option and then a premium option.
I think so. Pandora's done something like that. And so is, I believe, TuneIn Radio. I could be incorrect, but I think they did the same thing. And with that, subscription also being able to request specific artists rather than saying, "Hey, play Brooks and Dunn," and then they say, "Here's music like Brooks and Dunn or the Brooks and Dunn station," and then you
Mhm.
get like Brad Paisley all, hour of listening to Brad Paisley or Jason Aldean or something. Um, I think there's money in that. I don't know about the audiobook thing though. So what's the benefits with Spotify, do you know, as far as paying for it rather than listening, other than being able to um pick your own artist, specifically to listen to? Why would I go to Spotify rather than Audible? I,
I mean, from that standpoint, I mean, I haven't really used Audible myself. I know from the book standpoint, I mean, having the 15 hours of audiobook listening time per month, uh, I feel like that's probably maybe a little light depending on who you are. Because I know, like, again, my wife is big. If she does audiobooks, she does it to work and back, which may not seem like much, but when you add that up over time, it adds up pretty quick.
yeah,
So, I feel like it's dangerous to put a limit on that, but at the same time, I think that because of the benefits that you get from a music standpoint, um, I think at least on the premium side, being able to build playlists and all that, um, I think kind of that audiobook is just kind of tossed in there with that as like a incentive for people who are big into the audiobook community and whatnot. Um, and I think really that premium is what kind of their normal option has been. I think the big difference is adding just that basic plan that you won't have access to some of that stuff.
right, right.
So maybe people who don't want to or don't worry about audiobooks or just they're more paper copy people. I'm one of those people.
Yeah,
So I'm just, I think from that standpoint, it'll be interesting to have that 1099 basic plan. I mean, it's especially again, what we were talking about previously is trying to find things that maybe are more economical for people.
gotcha. I think that would be a big boon. I do think that would be a big boom for them. I don't know how, much the audiobook thing's gonna matter because I didn't even know you could listen to audiobooks on
Hmm.
Spotify. Podcast, obviously, they've got Joe
Yep.
Rogan over there. And maybe doing more Spotify specific shows. Hey, Spotify, pay me. I'll be specific to Spotify only if you pay me. If you're listening right now, you're probably not, but um yeah, so doing stuff like that, getting people to only be on Spotify. You can't get Joe Rogan on Apple Podcasts. That's
Hmm.
why I have Spotify personally. Um, maybe even guys like Michael Malice. I don't know if you've heard of him before or not, but he's a big time podcaster.
Yeah.
Uh, those would be big booms for Spotify. I think that's kind of the area that I would go in,
Hmm.
kind of paying the big money out to the big time podcasters and keeping them specifically to your platform.
Well,
That's
and I think that's part of why they cleaned stuff up too, because you knew the Joe Rogan one was getting renegotiated, I think, last year, and so they were trying to clean stuff up to kind of free up some cash to be able to get him a better contract. So,
that makes sense.
well, the third thing I had, I think you'll find this one interesting. I wanted to bring up a big controversial topic that you guys have talked about several times over the time of uh, this podcast, but is good old Boeing. Um, so U.S. officials have not made a decision yet on whether they're going to prosecute Boeing. Um, And so one of the things that they mentioned in this article, a lot of the families have actually asked for a $25 billion fine against Boeing, along with prosecution. Um, and as you kind of mentioned, as in your previous comment about doors flying off planes, um, because Boeing didn't have that problem at all. Uh, but yeah, when you look at this, is there a concern that Boeing's might have even more of a hit against it? And do you think at any point here, is there a minimum that you would have even potentially an interest of ever buying into Boeing? I mean,
No,
obviously not in its current trajectory, but
no, not until leadership has completely changed. I don't know how the CEO is still there. I don't know how the board of directors is still there. I don't know how most of the management is still there. It all blows my mind. Until they change, the culture won't change. And it wasn't until all this stuff that you just said, all this stuff's coming out now, they're facing the possible $25 billion fine, even facing a possible prosecution. And now they can come out and say, oh, yeah, it's possible that the culture could be bad at Boeing. That, it's, or they said it's far from perfect. Those were their words. The culture was far from perfect.
you'll find far from perfect almost anywhere. And our perf is a bit of an understatement, especially considering two plane crashes and some of those had. But I mean, even on top of that, did you see anything from the CEO being questioned by Congress?
No, but I saw that he apologized to the families of the Max crash finally. I mean, how many years do you have to have? How many years has to go by between, the crash and you apologizing to people?
Yeah, it surprised me that it's taken that long, and again, you're looking at this. I feel like they waited to the point that they were caught to a situation where they couldn't say no. I mean, the whistleblowers, all the situations that have had on them over the past, really, what, 4 or 5 years, um, just and really, what I think the most terrifying thing on all this is that Boeing was such a good name in aviation. And so to see this happen is just a travesty. But no, I agree with you. Until they clean things up at Boeing, um, you know, it's yeah, until you have planes that are coming without the expectation of partial assembly,
Exactly.
I don't think that you will have. So I don't think unless Boeing turns things around, I agree with you that they won't. They aren't a stock to look into. But ideally, if things happen right from these investigations and they can make some change, it may be stock to look into here potentially here in the future.
Well, it's duopoly. So if they do make leadership changes and get on the right path, there's incredible growth that can be had.
Yep.
But the culture has to change. The culture is a cancer for Boeing.
Yep. Nope. 100%. Yeah. One thing I'm excited about because I was looking at this week, kind of prepping for this. Looking at inflation numbers coming up here, I believe July 11th is the next time inflation numbers come out. And so I'll be excited because they're still talking about potentially one rate cut this year. And I think you and Dave and I are all aligned that it's probably not going to happen. But I feel like if July's numbers come out a certain way, I won't say the reason why, but I feel like a rate cut could happen, not for the right reasons. And ultimately, I'll be curious to kind of, what the remainder of this year holds. But yeah,
It would probably have to be a recession scare.
yeah. Well, I we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think it'll be interesting. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'll be excited to see what those numbers come out to be here soon.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for sure. It'll be especially interesting to see how the stock market reacts to it.
Well,
Because
and do you think at this point that the market already has it priced in for a drop?
I do. I do. I mean, the S&P 500's at record highs.
So what do you think happens if they don't have a drop?
Then it should go down.
Ideally,
Theoretically, the stocks should go down. we've went from pricing, well, not from price. I don't know, wasn't say pricing. We've went from expecting 3 rate cuts, not me, but the market did,
Hmm.
to one, and somehow we're still at record highs.
And you know what? I've actually been wondering that pretty much all year too. Like, when's the other shoe gonna drop? I mean,
Yeah.
I know Dave sees both of us as bears a little bit lately more than bulls, but yeah, it'll be interesting.
It will be, but I think that the market's rallies have been on the backs of NVIDIA, and
Hmm.
I think Apple and Meta and just a handful of the largest companies in the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq. I don't think what's going on underneath the surface is as good as people expect.
But it's
Or-
still even question. Even looking at the market, I was looking at it this week, and like Tesla obviously has taken a big hit lately. Well, some of the bigger companies have taken a hit, but the market still seems to be, you know, uh, sustaining. And I'm curious what stocks are really keeping it up. I mean, to your point, you mentioned Meta and whatnot, but I feel like I don't know, it just doesn't seem like the numbers are matching what I feel like I see when I'm looking out at the average everyday man.
Yeah, I think it's AI hype that's driving.
Hmm.
That's my opinion.
No, I could believe that.
Yeah, yeah. You got anything else?
Nope, I think I'm good there. Let's go
Okay.
ahead and take it into final thoughts.
Okay. Final thoughts. Just looking at even companies like Coca-Cola that look a little overvalued to me. Normally you would say buy Coca-Cola. It's been underperforming the S&P 500 for like the last 5 years.
Mhm.
I mean, the soft drinks market looks to grow about 3 to 5% every year on average globally. I even don't see Coca-Cola being worth, I think it's 22 PE right now. I
Mhm.
don't see that even. So, you can have these great companies, you can buy into them, give them 30 years, you're still going to make a little bit of money. But I really think that even with good companies, you need to look at the valuation if you're going to maximize your returns. So don't just go, if you're going to buy individual stocks, don't go in and buy, a handful of the best stocks and expect, great returns for the next year or two. If you're not going to do your research, just buy the S&P 500. That's it. And add into it maybe every 6 months.
Yep. Nope, I'm with you there. Um, yeah, I think what I would mention, I think we're in for a little bit of a bumpy ride here in the short term. I think the thing that I would tell everybody, and actually, Brandon, you called it out there in our group chat, is um, now is not a bad time to build cash positions. Prepare yourself for what could be coming from an opportunity standpoint, and just keep your eyes open. There's news coming out every day. Things are flying and changing every day, so try to invest in what you know, and then also just keep an eye for opportunity.
Yep, that's it. All right. I appreciate you filling in. You did a great job. I don't know if we're gonna have Dave here next week or not. It seems like he's doing all right. He's sending me texts, so there's that.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you guys need me, I'm happy to be here. But actually, no, actually, next Sunday I won't be able to because I'll be on vacation. I'll be in a car, so I don't think the sound from that one will be very good with a crying newborn in the back. But no, it's been a pleasure to be here, and I know you guys have done a great job with this. With what, 3 years now, almost two
Yeah.
years?
3 years, I don't know, 160 some odd episodes, somewhere around there.
Crazy to think, but yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, and looking forward to hearing next week's episode once you guys get it out.
Yeah. Well, I won't lose this episode. This is on a newer laptop. So we're good. The last time we did a show, we completely lost it.
I remember that.
All right. Well, everybody have a good night. We'll see you next week.
Take care.